I know there's a lot of kids that are coming up in this age and they look at mobile apps and 3D printing like it's such the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to give that to a younger child and, you know, kind of mold them and give them what they need as far as what I needed when I was growing up. So.
Are you originally, you're based in Dayton, Ohio, correct?
Yes, sir. Dayton, Ohio.
Awesome. Are you originally from there or did you move there somewhere else?
I'm actually from here. I like to say Trotwood, Ohio more, which is a small suburb right outside of Dayton. But I was born here and I've been living here for most of my life, yes.
Nice. What kind of activities do you tend to do outside of work then? Because I know you have quite an extensive work experience as a software developer and you got your 3D printing company.
Right. You know, I kind of got a few hobbies, I guess. I like skateboarding. It's probably one of the biggest things. Yeah, it's very, very relieving for me to just get some fresh air. I also like just listening to music or traveling, any outdoor activities, learning Spanish. Things like that are probably some of my hobbies that I do in the pastime.
It's really cool, learning Spanish and all that. Just because you're involved with tech and all that, are you familiar with the one wheel?
I'm not familiar with that, no.
It's like an electronic skateboard that only has one wheel in the middle of it, and it just adjusts based on how you lean on it to go forward or backwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. I might have to look into that now.
Yeah, look into a one wheel. They're very popular in LA, actually.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds like something I need.
Yeah, there a lot of people because of once you get good at riding a one wheel, you can just like stabilize it really well. And a lot of people like to take like vlogs of themselves, like one wheeling up a mountain, just, like recording themselves and all that.
That's cool, man. I'm gonna look into that. I need that.
Yeah. So, I guess since we're already talking about tech and all that, what made you decide to start your own 3D printing company?
I kind of fell into it because when I was living in Colorado, I had some older gentlemen that I hung around and they would always mention 3D printing. But at the time, I didn't have the funds or the resources to actually purchase one. And this was back in 2015.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So it was about 4 years ago when I first heard it. By the time I moved back to Ohio in 2017, that was when I decided that I wanted to just try something new because I had been doing software development for so many years. And I felt like I just was getting kind of stagnant. So I just bought a 3D printer and just started practicing with it. And then I fell in love with it at that point.
Nice. What 3D printer did you start with?
I started with a FlashForge Creator Pro.
FlashForge Creator Pro.
Yep.
At school, where I used to go to school, we had a whole like 3D printing part of the makerspace. And my favorite when I was doing projects was the Creality Ender 3.
Oh, yeah. I have that one too as well. That's my second printer.
Yeah. When I was at school, I did some really nerdy 3D printing projects. Like I played some Dungeons and Dragons and all that, and I would print some orc figures to what's on table now.
Yeah, that's cool though. Yeah, you get your feet wet somehow. That's good.
Yeah. So I guess that's why I chose to be the guy to interview, because I've done a bit of 3D printing on my own.
Got you. Okay.
One of the things that we usually ask for people who start their own businesses is that, was being a boss always a goal of yours?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd say for the majority of my life, it has been. Early on, well, actually, no. Let me change that.
All right.
Even as a kid, I always wanted to do something on my own. I don't know if being my own boss was the exact term, but I wanted to kind of venture out of what society said I should do. You know what I'm saying? As far as work this job and then stay there for the rest of my life. So right. I remember even as a kid, just thinking of different video game consoles that I could create myself, just put my name on it. So even all the way back then as a little child, I wanted to do something on my own. So I guess you could say I've always wanted to do that.
It's very cool. Just out of curiosity, what were some of those ideas of your own personal video game console?
I had there was one called the T-Soul. So like it's like a console, but with the T in front of it for
T-Soul, yeah.
Yeah, I call it T-Soul. It's a pretty terrible name, but when I was a kid, I just thought that was the coolest thing, just having my own video game system. So
it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I remember drawing up mock-ups of what it looked like and stuff, but I never went anywhere with it. But it was, even at that point, it kind of sparked my interest in just doing something on my own.
Nice. Um, do you play video games a lot as a hobby?
I used to, but as of lately, I haven't really played them. When I was playing them, I played a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of RPG games. I just haven't had time to sit down and play them anymore. But I do miss playing video games.
Yeah, video games are pretty time consuming nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the main thing. When I'm playing a game, I feel like I get stuck in it, and I may spend a whole 6-7 hours just gone, and I didn't do what I need to do for the day.
Hmm. Did playing video games as a kid kind of like help you lead into like becoming a software developer as you got older?
Possibly, yeah. I guess just because of my interest in, I guess, functionality and creating, how things work. I guess by watching video games, I was amazed by how they put pieces together and make an actual video game. So I kind of correlated that over to working in software development too. So I guess say that inspired me. Yeah.
Very cool. Your LinkedIn profile specifies that you are a mobile app developer. What kind of apps have you developed in the past?
So I made apps for, let me see, I have about 3 or 4 apps on the market. Some of the apps include essentially a Yelp for Dayton. So it was like, it created a list of different artists, musicians, comedians, and stuff like that for the city of Dayton that allowed people to reach out, if they needed entertainment or things like that. I've also made an app most recently that allows people to order some 3D prints from me. And another app I made was pretty much like a central location for football camps, to list different football camps that were coming up for high schoolers, and they can register for them through the app and things like that. So my ideas have kind of been all over the place, but that's kind of where they've been.
That's very cool. A lot of your apps seem to have a core ideal, which is like doing stuff for like a local community there in Drayton. Has that always been like a really strong point for you, like being a strong contributor to the community?
For sure, yeah. I honestly feel like before you can do anything for anyone else, you got to build your community up, your core. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what made you, that's what raised you. So I'd be doing myself a disservice if I was trying to save the rest of the world, but I wasn't even looking out for my own city. So that's been one of my core values since a kid, is just making sure the people around me are good, and then venture off to what I need to do.
Nice. Well, I guess that kind of touches on like your journey. Then, like you just had this passion for software development, and you just did it to make your town a better place. That's really cool, man.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
One of the things that a lot of the professionals we interview talk about is mentorship and people having helped them out along the path. Do you have any like experiences with mentors or any mentors that helped you through your path?
I honestly, and I don't want to sound cocky in any way, shape, or form, but I don't have any mentors, honestly. Simply because a lot of the things that I'm into, like software development or 3D printing, it's already in a lane by itself. There aren't really many people that are doing these things, especially coming from where I'm from. So I would love a mentor, but I just never came across one that actually stuck with me and kind of, built the path for me. So I've been doing all this by myself, really.
Yeah. So you've been more of blazing your own path then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very cool, man.
Thank you.
Do you think that maybe like you would think about being a mentor for someone else? Like the more.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the long-term goal. You know what I mean? With everything that I know, I don't want to keep it all in. I want to share it with somebody else. So I know there's a lot of kids that are coming up in this age, and they look at mobile apps and 3D printing like it's such the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to give that to a younger child and, kind of mold them and give them what they need as far as what I needed when I was growing up. So for sure, I definitely would like to be a mentor.
Awesome. I guess one of the questions that we have over here, I kind of going on with your career and all that, and it sounds like you've been doing a whole lot since you started this. How do you balance like your work and your personal life, like work-life balance, that sort of deal?
Right. It's a good question. I kind of just I don't really look at it like a challenge, honestly. I just look at it more so like I'm more important than anything I'm working on. So my self-health, my spiritual health, my mental health, I try to prioritize that over everything else. And then that way, everything else just follows. So when it comes to actual, just like jobs and things like that, or any tasks I have to do for my 3D printing, that always comes second. And so, working on myself, everything else falls into place, if that makes sense. So I don't really look at it as too much of a challenge. It's second nature to take control of myself and then work on what I need to.
Yeah, that's a really healthy like outlook, man.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just work so hard, but then at the end they're drained. They can't even produce anymore. So
Mhm. I guess a little further back to the point you made that you'd like to be a mentor. Do you have any advice that you would give to someone who wants to maybe follow in your footsteps? Maybe not necessarily like the strict being like, go into software and then 3D printing, but along that same life path.
right. Yeah, I guess what would I say? Well, one, I would say never give up. I know that sounds very cliche, but it's one of the things that's helped me the most. I would tell them never give up, because anything good in life, it has to come with patience. It has to come with time. You know what I mean? Before you see anything take off, you've got to put the years in behind it. So I would tell them not give up. And I will also tell them to do what they love, not necessarily do what makes them money. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make money all the time, you'll eventually get tired of it. But if you do what you love every day, you'll never have to think about going to work. So be patient and love what you do.
Being patient and love what you do.
Yep.
And I mean, like, never giving up. The reason why it's a cliche is because it always comes up no matter what discipline you're in. It's still helpful advice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. More along the lines of like software development, one of the questions that we had here is, what do you think your Mount Rushmore of dream clients would look like? Like, who would you like love to do projects with?
As far as just individuals or big businesses?
Both, man.
Um, that's a good question. Does it have to be like specific, like a set number of them, or?
Let's say 4.
Okay, all right. So Mount Rushmore, you're right. Okay. I would like to work with, I guess, Google somehow, just because I know that they're very innovative over there, and they have a lot of people on the team that can provide a lot of good insight on what's really useful in the world. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
I know his mind is very, very out there. I'll say that, to say the least. Who else? Steve Jobs, rest in peace, because I know that he was ahead of his time with everything he was thinking of.
Right.
And then one more person, who would I put there? Oh, Bill Gates, for sure. I feel like Bill Gates is a pioneer in his own way, in many ways, actually. So I would definitely just love to sit down and see what he would like to work up for 3D printing.
Yeah. It's interesting that all like the company and the 3 people that you addressed were all like, it's kind of similar to you, trailblazers in their own right, pioneers and all that.
Right.
Exactly. Speaking of like Elon Musk, just out of curiosity, what do you think of some of like the stuff that he's been doing with like SpaceX?
Yeah, I'm not 100% familiar on SpaceX yet, but I from the things that I've heard, I think it's cool that he's at least pushing the boundaries. You know what I mean? At least stepping outside of the norm as far as what we can do as humans on this earth. So it comes off a little crazy at times, kind of like, what is he doing? But I think you have to be crazy before you can make anything amazing. So I'm all for it. I support it.
I really like that line. You got to be crazy before you.
Yeah, you got to, man.
Do you feel as though like that's kind of like a core value for you, because you've been like pursuing all of this and contributing so much to your community? You think you've got a bit of like that kind of like crazy ambition in you?
For sure. Because honestly, like I said, if I wasn't the way I was, if I didn't think the way I did, if I wasn't so out there, then I would probably kind of just fit into a routine, and I would have never picked up 3D printing. I would have never did anything outside of the norm. I would have just did what society told me to do. So definitely, I feel like you've got to have that mindset to where, like, I don't care if this sounds so outlandish that you'll never talk to me again. That's fine. But I have to do it because it's never been done, and it's pushing the boundaries that no one's ever went to before. So yeah, for sure. You got to be crazy.
Awesome. Creativity for me has always been like one of the biggest, like, my personal needs. Like, I when I talked about like Dungeons and Dragons before, I also paint miniatures as like a side hobby and like do like minor commissions with that. Do you get like all of your like was like creative juices, like creative fulfillment from your like endeavors with 3D printing and all that, or do you have some other things that you do outside of work, like not maybe more along like the you said about skateboarding? Do you have any other things that fulfill you creatively?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest things, and it's probably, normal for everyone else, but I think just talking to people, it helps me a lot with creativity because it allows me to step into their world and get an understanding of what they feel is necessary for the world. If I'm just in my mind all the time, then I can just make stuff for trade, but I'm one person out of however many are on this planet. So just general conversation gives me the creativity I need whenever I have writer's block or I'm just stuck on something. Um, Another thing would be my meditation. I like just clearing my mind. So it's funny that like talking to people and then clearing my mind both help me, but the meditation helps as well because then I can kind of get back on track as far as like, all right, what's really important and what are my next steps as far as my next idea. So I say general conversation and meditation are two things that help me with creativity.
Very cool. You focus a lot of stuff that we've been talking about throughout this conversation has been a lot of focus on mindset. Um, that's a very common theme that we've had with a lot of the professionals that we have here. That you have to get your mind right before you can get like the business part, before you get the industry right.
Right.
Um, did you just teach yourself how to do that, just like all on your own?
No, not really. I would say, well, I say my family is a very big influence. You know what I mean? Especially my grandmother. She's very spiritual, so she's always taught me about having my mindset straight before I do anything. And then the rest of my family, they're on the same wave. So it just helps out when you're surrounded by people who think the same as you and want the best for you. So I say they've been the ones who have told me a lot when it comes to getting my mindset right with this.
It's very cool. So is your family also like the more creative mindset?
For sure. And I think so in their own separate ways. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing like the IT, my sister does video, my mother does design, you know what I mean? So we've all kind of have our own different ilks as far as how we're producing something new for the world. So, and that helps out as well. It's not just one type of creativity in the house. It's a whole plethora of ways that we're trying to express ourselves. So that helps out.
It sounds like a great way to grow up and all the different creativities around you.
For sure, for sure.
Do you feel like in that way, like the creativity of like, your family, that kind of an inspiration for you?
You said, is it an inspiration for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It on days when I want to just stop this, because there's days when I'm just like, this isn't going anywhere and I'm tired and I'm working too hard. But then I look over the next room and I see my sister going hard with her stuff. So I'm like, okay, let me get back on my stuff. It really motivates me to keep going and stick with it because I see that they're doing the same thing with their time.
That's that's incredible, man. I'm an only child, so it's kind of weird for me to hear like siblings and your whole family gives you creative energy rather than kind of like drains it somewhat.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Um. So I think that was we blazed through a lot of the points I wanted to go through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Those are good questions, though, man.
Yeah. I guess another one, if we want to keep going here, progressing through a career like yours, I imagine you don't do it on a whim, that you have a plan and you set out goals for yourself. What were like your initial goals and even like now the goals that you have going forward?
Well, a lot of the goals that I have, they're usually centered around like, I guess, like bettering myself. I don't really make goals that are just, get $1 million or, you know what I'm saying? Things like this. I want to make a goal to where it's like, all right, if I achieve it, then I'm a better person than I was last year. So some of my goals may include, getting tr3Designs seen in front of however many people, you know what I mean? It would help me be a better person next year because then like, okay, now I know that my name is being heard amongst these different groups of people. So, this is one of the goals. Another goal is probably something with, bringing more people onto the team. You know what I'm saying? I don't plan on doing this forever by myself. So that's another goal that would help me out as well, just bringing a team on. And that way I know the following year, hey, I'm growing. So a lot of the goals are based around that.
Mm-hmm. Very, you're very team and community oriented, man. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, so yeah, I think that's all the main things that we have here. I guess we can just move on to like the little random fun questions we have at the end.
Okay, that's cool.
So, what's your favorite thing about living in Drayton, Ohio?
Okay. My favorite thing about living in Dayton, Ohio is one of the few cities I've lived in my life where I feel like it has so much potential, but it's not seen. You know what I mean? And they call Dayton Gem City, and it really is that. It's like a gem that's just is sitting in the map of America, and just no one is looking at it. So I just love the city because it's, whether it be meeting people who are very good at sports or meeting someone very good at music or whatever it is, Dayton has a lot of the things that you need. It's overlooked a lot. So that's what I love most about it.
The true hidden gem of the states.
Yep, for sure.
Awesome. On the contrast to that point, is there anything you find particularly annoying about living there?
Yeah, for sure. I'd probably say people here tend to not be as motivated as I am, and it makes me feel a little weird sometimes. Like, to see me doing 3D printing and software development from a city like Dayton, and then right next door there's people who are just willing to give up on their dreams. It makes me feel like why are you feeling that way? You know what I mean? Like, I feel this motivated. I wish everyone else did, but sadly most of my city is just kind of in the dumps. They're very sad, they're not very motivated, they're depressed. So that's probably the worst thing living here, is people's I guess will level isn't very high.
And you're doing a fair bit to improve that, though, aren't you? With how much you're involved in the community.
Yeah, that's another one of my goals. I want to show Dayton in a better light, to where people are just feeling optimistic about everything that they're doing.
That's awesome, man. Dude, you're so cool. I guess if you were in charge of Dayton for a day, what would you do?
Good question. If I was in charge of Dayton for a day, um, hmm. Well, I would probably I'll probably create like a day for, like, just one day out of the week or something, for creatives in Dayton to come together and just work on whatever they want to work on and bounce ideas off each other, and let it be known for the whole city that, hey, if you got something you want to work on creatively, step outside the house, come here for a couple of hours, and we can just build together. Because I know there's a lot of people here that can do that. So that would probably be the one thing I would do if I was in charge of Dayton for a day.
So you'd make a citywide workshop Wednesday?
Yep, just like that. That might be the name too.
That's awesome. I guess now we're just going to move on to some ongoing, like, trending questions and all that. Do you prefer Apple or Android?
Android to the day that I die, man.
Sure. I'm with you there. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
At the moment, most of the world seems pretty focused on short-term or short-form social media. Do you think that's the way of the future, and that we're going to have that sort of a very rapid pace and social media infused consumption?
I think so. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. And I don't think, fast, rapid social media is anything that's ever going to plateau, because people want to stay connected. So I see it growing continuously for the next however many years until I'm off this earth, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I literally work in social media, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, when you're thinking about social media, like, do you remember back when, like, Facebook first started and no one, like, paid any mind to it, and then suddenly it's like groundswell out of nowhere?
Yeah, I remember when Facebook just was like, you couldn't do any, like, you couldn't have pictures, you couldn't really say you liked things with emotions. It was just say this and just wait for a response. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to see where it's at now. So yeah, that's a good point.
Just out of curiosity, did you ever use any of the pre-Facebook things? Like, there was MySpace and Nexopia and those things?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember having MySpace. Yeah, I had MySpace. I had the top 8 friends and everything. Yeah. I
Oh,
remember Tom.
so retro to think about now. And it's weird to say that it's retro because it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. I feel like I was just logging into MySpace the other day, but yeah, it's ancient now.
Dang. Oh, well, um, I think that brings us to the end here. Do you have any like closing remarks that you want to say?
Um, just thank you for taking this time out to interview me. You know, anytime I sit down and talk with someone about this, I really appreciate it because it's time out of your day. So I thank you very much for that.
Likewise, man. It's time out of your day too. And I mean, like, personally, like, you were incredibly cool to talk to. You seem like just a remarkable individual.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That made my day.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll call it there. You have a wonderful day, man.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.